Hello everyone. This is my first video I'm putting on my channel Priestess Wings, and thank you for being here with me today. So to start off, I wanted to make a video about my personal experiences with God Ra. So as many of you know, God Ra is an ancient god, first depicted to us through ancient Egypt. And he is represented by the sun, powerful, life-giving sun, pure energy, creation. So I'm going to share my personal experiences with God Ra. I will also just mention that my experiences may differ from your experiences. And I will say this: when we have children, you must help each child grow in a different way. Each child learns differently. And we're noticing this in school, finally. So each approach must be a little different to positively impact each individual person. So my experiences may differ from your experiences with God Ra. So if things seem a little different, just remember that, okay? All right. So in the beginning, I was actually meditating with goddess Aset, or Aset. Some people might know her name by her Greek name, goddess Isis. So I was meditating with goddess Aset, and I had been experiencing some ringing in my ear. And I had never really considered meditation with God Ra before. My world revolved around Goddess Aset. So as I was meditating with her, she said, I want to introduce you to someone. Someone wants to see you. And as I'm meditating, I'm thinking to myself, okay, and she speaks to me through my heart sometimes in meditation. Other times it is through actual visions. I'm not talking about through the mind's eye. I'm talking physically, as if I'm looking at something in front of me, although my eyes are closed. So as she was talking to me, she said, I want to introduce you to someone. And I said, okay. And immediately I saw a very tall man, and he had deep tan, terracotta, warm mocha skin. And he had a very tall, white-looking hat. I didn't look at the details of the hat. But I had only ever heard of God Ra, being very powerful and possibly very stern. So I was a little apprehensive in the beginning. I was rather anxious. I was a little afraid that, he would be very overbearing or very strict type of person or being that would approach me. So I was a little worried. And, she told me, don't be afraid. It's okay. So I said, all right. I was a little worried, So as he approached, he knelt down to a child, like if I was like a little toddler. And he knelt down and he looked at me and he opened his arms. And I was a little bit apprehensive, but Goddess Ascent, she was like, don't be afraid, go to him. So, little toddler me, I approached him, and I hope I don't cry. The energy and the emotions were very strong. He embraced me, and he held on to me so tight, like the way a mother or a father would hold on to their child that they thought had been missing for the past year, suddenly delivered to them. He embraced me so hard that it almost would have been as if he was like shaking, like that kind of an embrace. And he said, I'm so happy you're home. You're home. And I was shocked. I was surprised. And then he did something that frightened me again. He started to cry. He started to weep. And I felt like I was sinning, because how do you make a God cry in that sense? Like you must be doing something horrible. And so as I'm meditating, I started leaning back because I'm trying to move away from all of this, because there was just so much energy and so much power, and I just started, to think that he was crying. I thought I did something wrong. I apologize about the noise. I thought I did something wrong. And so I leaned back so hard and so quickly that I almost fell over as I was meditating. It was just such a, big rush. So, but he held on to me. And my mother, once again, she said, don't be afraid. It's okay. So I stayed, and then I started to cry in my meditation. So then I was starting to cry, and he just held me. And he just kept saying, I'm so happy you're home. I'm so happy you're home. And then after that, he stood and he walked away, and he kind of just left my meditation. And I went and I continued my meditations with Goddess Aset. And I will never forget that initial introduction to him. I don't know why he came to me in that form, but I searched after that. I went online, like all of us do when we want to research things, and I looked up Amun-Ra. Looked up that name. And what came to me was an image of a man wearing that white skirt with that very deep skin tone and that very tall white hat. And when I saw it, it sent chills through my whole body, because I said, that's him. That's the man that I saw. And I had been somewhat familiar with, God Ra. I had seen pictures. I had never really studied the depth of art or how they were drawn or the specificities of each image, but I was vaguely familiar with him, very vague. And so I was very surprised, and when I saw that, it sent chills down my body. I knew exactly what I saw. And so I said, wow, he wasn't scary at all. He wasn't frightening to me. He wasn't harsh or stern or anything of that nature to me. And I was happy. I was happily surprised. Instead, he felt like uh, like how a parent would be to a child who they hadn't seen in so long. And so I was warmed by that, very warmed, very happy. So after that, I began to become more interested in him, and I created for him. I created an altar for him, and I found a statue that looked like the image of the man that I saw, Amun. Now that I know Amun, and I think later in Egypt they began to combine the two, Amun to Ra, Amun Ra. So they combined that later on. I had found that out. But the way he showed himself to me in the beginning was in the form of a man. So I was very new on my journey. And so I understand also that sometimes deities or spirits or entities, they will show themselves in a manner that they feel is most comfortable for us to understand. So that is how he approached me in the beginning. And so I created a little altar for him, and I felt very drawn to amethyst for him, which is a beautiful crystal, one of the highest vibrations. And I put little amethyst terminated towers around him, and other amethyst formations, excuse me. And I began to meditate with him. And as I meditated with him, he began to show a different side of himself to me. So now in the meditations, he showed himself to me in the beginning as the man, the Amun, but then he showed himself to me with the head of that falcon, the falcon head, with a beautiful, I believe it's, I can't think of the name of it right now, but that crown, that Egyptian, I know it starts with a T, I believe, but I can't think of it right now, and I apologize. But he wore that crown with the stripes on the side, and then the beautiful golden collar that extended downward. And when I saw him in that form, I felt more at ease. Excuse me. I haven't eaten today, so I apologize. And I saw that form, I felt much more comfortable. And so then I began to meditate with him. And the thing that he really wanted me to understand was these meditations in the beginning, he said, you need a lot of healing, he said. I hope you can hear me okay. Sorry about the lighting. He said, you need a lot of healing. He said, especially in the heart. And to quote something that he told me, he said, if your heart is fragmented, your love will be too. Let me mend the cracks in your heart so you may love in wholeness. The universe is the manifestation of love. And that's what he told me. So I had had some trauma in my past, and he wanted to work with me to help heal that trauma, to help heal my heart. And so I required a lot of love, and I needed to learn how to forgive and how to love myself as well, which is an important part of healing in anyone's journey. You have to love yourself. So as I meditated with him, I began to see his courtroom. And I say courtroom because I'm not sure what else to call it. But I saw it is such a dark black stone, so perfectly polished and clean that it reflects everything around it. And it is cradled in space. And behind it, where his throne sits just in front, is the sun. And it is like a close-up of the sun, as if you were very close to it. You can see the solar flares coming off of the surface. You know, just that boiling, massive sphere. And in front, you know, sitting upon that reflective black surface was his throne, made of gold. I have noticed that many deities wear gold, and there's a reason for that. Gold is actually a very, very high vibrational metal, so it makes sense. So I began to see his courtroom in this way, and I would see him as I meditated, and he would just help heal me, just sitting there with him at peace. So as I continue to meditate and have, you know, my relationship with him grow stronger, I sat down one day to meditate with him. And as I sat down, I looked on his altar, just thinking to myself, like, okay, relax. And on his statue, I saw a flash of light just appear and then go away very quickly. And what made this flash of light unique is that it blocked my eyesight to the statue, as if it was in between. It was not translucent in any way. It was solid, and it blocked my vision from seeing the statue. It just flashed and went away. And I was surprised, and I leaned back, and I was like, wow. I said, thank you for that. I see you. I acknowledge that. Thank you. It was beautiful. And I was very eager to meditate. So it was just a manner for him to show, you know, his presence to me. I'm here. Like, let's meditate. And I was very, very honored that I saw that day. And so after I began to grow closer to him, and I had that experience, and I started to see him more in his falcon-headed form, I decided to draw him. And I don't have the image with me immediately. I might have it on my phone. I don't know if you can see from the phone, but I drew him. I don't know if you can quite see. Might have to get that out. I drew him, and I started to, I knew that he had a sun disk on his head. I knew he did. But I kept wanting to figure out how should I put it on his head. I don't know how it looks. I just know there's a big circle. So I drew it, and in the beginning I wanted to put like this little snake on top. But something just didn't sit right with me when I drew the little snake head on top of the big circle. I looked at it and I said, I don't want that. I don't like that. It doesn't feel right. So instead I drew it around. And what I mean by that is in the beginning, I thought to myself, in Egypt, you see pharaohs with that little snake right there, the cobra. And I was like, maybe that's how I should draw it. So I wanted to draw it like that because I thought it made more sense. But something inside of me said, I don't like that. That doesn't feel right. So instead, I drew the circle, and I drew the end of the snake tail on this side like that. And then on the other side, I put the snake's head on the side of it, just kind of, the cobra's head just kind of out to the side. And I looked at it and I said, well, the body of the snake is really skinny, but I like this better. I like this better. So I'm just going to keep it like that. So I did. And I was very happy with it. I said, that's exactly how I see him. When he looks at me, and it's just this all-knowing look of just pure love. And I liked it. Later on that day, I wondered to myself, I was like, I wonder if the face of the falcon, because I was using a picture of an actual bird of the falcon to kind of give me a reference on the structure. And then I kind of morphed it into how I see him. So kind of use that as a base. But when I looked online, I said, I wonder how close it is, And as I looked online, I found an image of God Ra. And I had another moment where chills shot down my spine because I looked at the sun disk and the way the ancient Egyptians depicted the sun disk. And I shivered because the way they draw the snake around the sun disk was exactly the way I drew the snake after I had said, oh, the first one doesn't look right with the little snake in front on the top. It looked exactly like that with the tail down here and then the head of the snake on the other side, like just around the disc instead of like sitting on top. And I got shaken because I said, I didn't know how it looked. In the beginning, I just knew that there was a big circle. I didn't know how it looked, and when I saw it, I chills ran down my spine. And I said, I see him like that. That's how he is. That's that's how I drew him or ended up drawing him. And so I was taken back because I realized now that he was probably helping me as I drew his picture and kind of nudging me a little bit like, no, not on top, on the sides. So I was very happy when I saw that. It meant a lot to me. It was very, very special when I saw that. So I continued to meditate with him. And in one of the meditations one day, I saw him as if he took my hand like this. He was writing on my hand. And I didn't know quite what he was writing. But he was writing on my hand, and I said, What are you writing? And he said, This will spread. This will spread on your skin. And I said, what is it? What is it? And the way he depicted it was almost like a symbol. It's a symbol. And I said, okay, it is a good symbol. I said, okay. And I went about my day. During another time when I was meditating with him, I love when this happens, when I can feel him. I was meditating with him, and I was meditating with my brow chakra, the sixth chakra, the third eye. And I felt plain as day I felt a finger drag down my forehead over my third eye. It's just a gentle drag. And I got so excited. I said, thank you. Thank you, God Ra. Thank you. I was very happy because I knew he was trying to help me heal and help me manifest the opening of my chakras. So he was showing that to me. He let me feel him touch my forehead. So I was very happy. Very special experience. Very special. Another time I had an experience with him was during a session of Reiki with a beautiful soul named Christina. And she is a psychic medium in Mississippi. Eyes of Spirit, I believe, is her name. If you care to look her up. And at the time she was doing Reiki, she is a Reiki master. She's registered and everything. And I was laying down and she was helping me. And I felt, she said, God Ra is here. And I smiled. And I said, yes, I've been meditating with him more, She said, yes, he's here. He's here for healing. And I said, thank you. And I felt like a hand just on the outside of my arm, just kind of do this. And it left. And I said, I just felt a hand on my arm. Because I could feel her on one side. I could hear her on the other side. And I felt this on, I believe it was my right side. And I felt that. And she said, She said, he's touching your arm there. She said, he's here for, he's just helping you heal and align. And I was very excited. And she said, you have something it's glowing on you. It's like something like a symbol on your skin. And it's covering your body. And I said, really? And I said, well, I saw God Ra writing on my hand during meditation at one point. She said, yeah, it's all over your body. It's like his sigil is all over you. It's almost like a form of protection. And I said, that's beautiful. I said, thank you. Thank you so much, And, we continued the Reiki. So I was very, very thankful for that in my experience. To have it confirmed by an outside source is always good. So as I went on, I was actually I was losing my job. The way the organization that I worked for was going, they were no longer needing my position within that area anymore where I lived. And so I became a little worried, and I started putting my resume out and things like that, and nothing really ever bit. I, made sure that my resume looked good and, highlighted my performance and blah, blah, blah. And I was praying to, my goddess Aset and, God Ra. I call her my mother, goddess Aset, my mother. And I just said, I need a job. And God Ra said, don't be afraid. Don't worry. Don't worry. And I said, okay, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And he said, just, you may continue doing what you're doing, but don't worry. And I said, okay. And anytime I hear God Ra speak to me, my father, God Ra, speak to me, his voice is very gentle. It's a male voice, but very gentle. I've never heard him yell or be angry, and I guess I'm happy about that. I don't know what I'd have to do to make him upset at me, but I would never want to do it. So it's always very gentle, very caring, tender, loving. Yes, honey, I have a cat. So he told me not to worry. And as time drew closer and closer, and I was nowhere any closer to finding a job, I tried to keep calm, but it was on my mind, you know. So one day I was walking out to my car, and I saw a huge, big, just huge dragonfly near my car, just sitting on the ground. And in the spiritual world, the spirit world will give you signs like that, especially with the dragonfly, to let you know, especially when it's just very obvious and just strangely like right in your path, that you have a message, that they're trying to communicate to you, that you need to know something. So I got it, and I got the message, and I said, okay, all right, what's the message? And I meditated. And God Ra told me, he said, I want you to reach out. And I said, reach out to whom? Is this about my job? Yes. I said, all right, who will I reach out to? And I said, do I reach out to this individual that I know from, them working with me before, that now they have a new job in this other area with the same organization? And I said, is that the person? No. Okay. Who do I reach out to? And he said, you reach out to this other person that came down to check on everything and understand the dynamics of how you guys do work down there. You'll speak to her. I said, okay. And next day I sent her an email and said, hey, you guys still need help down there, and I haven't been able to find anything. And she said, well, we sure could use you, down here or up here. And I said, all right. She said, but we would need your resume and have to go through the proper channels. And I said, okay. So I spoke to them, and they were speaking to, I worked for a contractor at the time, speaking back and forth. And they said, well, she has to apply like everyone else, and then we'll see if she's right for the job according to that application. So I said, okay. But Father God Ra told me, he said, don't worry. You're going to get the job. And I said, okay. And my goal for this job was to eventually acquire another position that was outside of the contracting world, but more permanent. So I said, will it be this other kind of job? And he said, just be patient. He said, it will eventually, but for now it's going to be with a contracting job. But be patient, he said. I said, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. My cat is on my... One moment. Okay. So he told me, be patient. Sorry, my cat. Be patient. So I since it was my job was in a different state from the other job that I was applying for. They did a phone interview with me, and I answered all the questions. And since that position was extremely similar to the position I already worked, I had a lot of experience behind me. And I answered the questions, and I did all I could, and I left it at that. And, a little while later, a few days later, I received a message, and through my email. And it was basically a message saying, hey, congratulations, you've been picked for this job, and we just want to know how long it will take you to move up here and fill the position. I was shocked and amazed and happy, so happy. I said, I have to find a place to live first. And they said, all right, we'll give you so many days to get organized and find a place up here. And let us know when you get closer to understanding exactly when you will be reporting for work. So I did. And now came the hunt to find a place to live in a safe environment and all of that. And as I searched the areas to live nearby where I would be going to work, it was in a different state. All of the sudden, these places started popping up that had Egyptian iconography and Egyptian connections. And I said, oh my gosh, I said, this is so plain to see. It was confirmation for me that this was the work of my father, God Ra. And I had been meditating deeply and speaking to him regarding this. My mother, Goddess Aset, had kind of decided to allow God Ra, Father God Ra, to hold this responsibility in my life. So he did. And I was touched by that, very moved that what I had heard him tell me in meditation was actually happening. I was very happy. And I had continued to meditate with him, and as I mentioned before, I kind of saw myself like a child whenever I was with him. And the more I meditated with him, I began to see him hold me like you would a child, up on your chest, and and he kept giving me sweets, like a little sweet, like just, I guess, like a parent would. And he would continue to do that. And I became so comfortable with him, so happy and peaceful with him. Especially after everything I had been through, and how he continued to help me heal, and it's a hard task to heal from trauma sometimes, not sometimes, but all the time. And he was very patient, and never gave up on me. None of my, sacred deities, my mother, Goddess Aset, and, Father God, they never give up on me. And one day, as I was sitting there, I started to almost hear him again speaking to me. My ears began ringing at this time, sometimes on the right side and sometimes on the left. They began to ring, and only for a short time, and sometimes they would come in like lower, higher volume, almost as if I was listening to a conversation I couldn't understand. It's just ringing. And one day I began to hear this, and I stopped to listen. And I saw him in my mind's eye this time because I was at work. And he leaned forward and he held my hand and he said, at the time I was calling him God Ra, and he said, I want you to call me, if you're okay with it, call me Father God Ra. I want you to call me that if you're okay with it. It was up to me. And it was very strange. My hands started to shake. And there was just this surge of energy that kind of rushed through me as I was sitting there. And I started shaking. And he was very gentle. And he left it up to me. And I kind of had a moment of prayer with my holy goddess, Aset, my mother goddess. I said, is this okay? Is this okay? I want to say yes, I said, but is it okay? And she said, it's okay. Don't be afraid. Follow your heart. Be true to yourself. So that was the go-ahead for me. And I said, yes. I said, I'll call you Father God Ra. I will call you Father God Ra. And he was so happy. And he smiled. And I was so happy. And I started to cry a little bit. Because there was just a lot of energy and emotion being pushed through me. Anyone who's an empath can kind of understand that, but I channel some of their emotions. Sometimes they're very strong, and it's a lot of love, and so I started shaking and crying. I'm trying to keep it together because I'm at work, and I'm typing. And got home, I was so happy. My whole house felt like it was just a celebration somewhere, somehow. It wasn't in this plane, it wasn't, but I felt like it. I felt joyous. And so I moved. I had a lot of help from my dad. He came and helped me, and we moved everything and got myself situated up there, surrounded by different Egyptian things and places around me where I lived, and I was so happy. And found the perfect house too. All the other houses I was looking at, I was driving back and forth, 6 hours back and forth. I was getting exhausted, and all the houses I looked at, there were like 3 other people looking at it with me. People were jumping on the lease like it was free pizza, And I finally found this little house that had barely come out for rent on the market. I was the only one to look at it. And it was perfect. It was beautiful. And I could feel, I think I saw a little bumblebee. And bees, honey, I relate them to Father God Ra. And I saw the little bee, and I said, I see you, Father. I see you. And I picked that house, and that's where I'm living now. And I'll probably move again, but this house has been a blessing. So I was very grateful, because I was worrying about things, and he kept telling me, don't worry. I was stressing over trying to apply for the other houses fast enough because people were jumping on the leases, could never get there fast enough. And he kept telling me, stop. I have a home for you. I have a home for you. Relax. So, okay. And he did. He did. And I did all that worrying and fuss for nothing. We always do that to ourselves. Worry is like drinking someone else's poison. Does nothing for you, does nothing for the situation. It just stresses you out. Don't do it. Easier said than done. So, yeah. My cat at the time, he began to develop some gastrointestinal, intestinal issues. I went and took him to the vet, and the vet just said, "What's the problem?" And I said, "He's throwing up all his food 2 to 3 times a day." He said, "Well, is he still going to the restroom, to the bathroom?" And I said, "Yes, he is, but I don't know how he's taking anything in. It's, gratuitous amounts that he is throwing up 2 to 3 times a day." And he said, "Well, sometimes cats just throw up." And I said, "Okay, thank you." And I went home, and I didn't believe that answer. I didn't take it as the end of the question, or the answer, the true answer. So I meditated. I meditated with God Ra, my father God Ra. And I heard him tell me as I'm meditating, he said, "Feed him small portions of wet cat food, and he won't throw up." I said, "Okay." I said, "Thank you. Why can't I feed him so much dry food anymore? I still feed him a little bit. But why can't I?" He said, "He's getting older. His stomach. He eats so fast that his stomach can't handle the hard food." And I said, okay. So I searched for the best food I could find, 90 to 95%, chicken or a novel protein that his body had not been introduced to yet, in case it was an allergy. I discovered he does not like fish, and he's a cat. He does not like eggs. I promise he's a cat. He likes chicken. He didn't react well with turkey, I also noticed, but he likes chicken, which is strange because they're both poultry. So I started to get him on a cat food that was mostly just the meat, the actual meat, and small portions, so the small cans. And he stopped. He stopped throwing up. I can tell you, I was going through paper towels like they were going out of style. I had bought so much carpet cleaner because I lived in a carpeted apartment at the time before I moved here, and it's all hardwood here. And I was so grateful. I was so thankful. The doctor, the veterinarian ran blood work on him and stuff, and he said he's perfectly fine. His blood work looks amazing. Sometimes cats just throw up, but I couldn't take that as an answer, and so I did what I could, and Father God Ra helped me. And now he's fine. The only time he throws up, of course, is, the hairball. But he's a short-haired cat, so it doesn't happen often. And I was so happy because my baby is finally getting nutrition, So I was very grateful. So that's another experience I had with Father God Ra. I purchased a candle for him for his altar once, and he was very happy about these candles. So when I went to pick it up at the my little mailbox, I noticed a little bumblebee or honeybee following me to my mailbox. And I looked down and I said, I see you, Father. I see you. And the candles had arrived. I didn't know if they had arrived yet, but I opened the mailbox and then I saw the candles there and I was like, oh, that's why. That's why. So he enjoyed those candles very much. You know, I continue to have experiences with my deities, but this video has run a bit long, and I'm sorry about that. I will try to do my best to convey my thoughts in future videos, if I can, shorter length of time. But those are my experiences. There are a few others, but these are the ones that I decided to talk about today with God Ra, my father, God Ra. So I hope that in some things perhaps they resonated with familiarity to you, or maybe they're completely different than your experiences. But the one thing that pervades and supersedes all things in my experiences with him have been the law of free will and the law of love that I feel from him. Free will is important. It is a divine attribute. Force is never divine. It is never holy. It is never from that source. And from him, all I feel is an immense love, protection, joy, and free will. I will say one other experience before I wrap it up. I was going through a hard time, and I was in my living room and I said, Mother Goddess Aset and Father God Ra, I said, you guys gotta stay close to me, please. Stay close to me during this time. And my Mother Goddess Aset, she holds me and she put her wings around me and she said, I'm always here. Always here. And my father said, I'm not leaving your side. And I said, okay, but you guys better stay close, okay? And I literally saw him in my mind's eye. He smushed his face up against my face like that. And he's like, is this close enough? And it made me laugh. So it vanished. All my worry and my anxiety vanished into thin air. And I just started to laugh because he made me laugh. He did that just to make me giggle and let all those stresses and worries just go away, just melt away. And so I will say that in my experiences with him, sometimes he can be lighthearted. And it does me good. I've only ever seen him a few times. If he is being not stern, but, you know, I guess sternish, he crosses his arms and he will look like that. And it's never been at me, but rather when I'm asking a question about something, when he's giving me the answer of leave that alone or leave that person alone, you know. So, okay, I understand. Or this is outside of your control. You know, okay, I understand. Thank you. But he's never been angry. Just guarding, like a father God would. So, that's my final experience. Thank you for joining me. And I will see you again in my next video that I post. Please feel free to leave your comments down below. And if you would like to subscribe, if you have any questions, I'll do my best to try and answer them. I also have a Facebook. Shasem Raset is the name of that Facebook page. If you would like to join me there, I give daily oracle card readings, and I offer just inspirational type quotes to kind of help us kind of think through the day. But again, it is all for love, and it is for your growth. I want your highest good. And, please remember that, to love yourself and to look toward your highest good and never give up. So with that, I will say goodbye for today, and I hope to see you again. Thank you very much, and have a beautiful day. Blessings to you. Goodbye.